speaking of, that'll be the first thing that you hear is speaking of. So, speaking of Sisters of Mercy, why didn't you go?
Um, well, I hadn't seen them, but there's so many shows going on. Most of the shows I'm seeing is shows I'm going with my son. There's only so much dough to go around. So, and really, Andrew can't sing anymore. He doesn't play an instrument. So it's essentially none of the other people were in the band back in the day. So it's like a cover band with a guy that wrote the songs walking around, sort of singing in his uh smoke ruined voice.
Yeah.
So I just, passed.
Yeah, that's what happens like when there's so many shows at the same time, people of our age are like, okay, well, I have to prioritize like why's my cat meowing so loud? um you have to like prioritize, because everything is just like, well, I like you said, you broke it down like that, you broke it down
You
like
know,
that where it's like, realistically it's like X, Y, and Z. And do I really need to go to this? It's that's just the way it goes. So
yeah. Hey, listen, if it was in Patchogue, I probably would have I probably would have schlepped the 10 minutes.
was it the
If I was
King's
like,
Theater?
yeah, which is
Yeah.
a beautiful looking place and stuff, but I'm like,
Did you
the shows cost a lot right now, so it's just like even more so that I have to be like, I'm just not gonna get
I
that one.
I just went there for the first time ever. Like I
Yeah.
just went there to go see the Flaming Lips, and wow. Ah,
I heard it's beautiful.
holy shit. It doesn't even make sense. Like I can't even imagine like what the rent is there. Like, I'm like looking at
Yeah.
like, it's on Flatbush Avenue, which always reminds me of two things.
Mm,
Farragut Road, which is always shouted out by nonfiction and the boys. Well, by
right.
nonfiction Gore Bill. And also when Chris Rock was doing his comedy routine, he's like, I don't care if I saw Russian tanks on Flatbush Ave. I'm not fighting. But
Yeah.
the theater is amazing. Like I just couldn't. I don't know. It was like I got pretty floored by it, to be honest with you. And we went to go see the Flaming Lips. Luckily, we know someone, so they gave us some passes, and the passes came with I guess there's like a section called the
Mm,
ambassadors section where you don't wait online for drinks or bathroom. You have your own private shit, and then there's like a
mhm.
room where you hang out away from from everyone, where they give you like free shit, like food and
Yeah.
stuff. Like you're just there hanging out, and I'm just like, wow, this is.
Now you're
I,
talking.
I would never pay for it.
Oh,
I would
I
just
hear you.
I would just sit with my regular ticket. I don't give a fuck. But like,
Yeah.
when in Rome, it was cool. It was a really good experience. We sat up, and just the landscape of it all was just great. So
Yeah. Next week I got The Cure on Tuesday, and I got Les Claypool's Flying Frog Brigade and um at Westbury Music Fair, whatever the fuck it's called now. I haven't been there. That's how long since I've been to that place.
oh,
Called
okay,
something
yeah,
else
yeah. Wow,
in
you
the
give
round there.
yeah in the round. So I saw the last time I was there, I saw um what's the fucking Beach Boy?
Mike Love.
Brian Wilson.
Oh, the good one.
Yeah.
The talented one.
Yeah, so he was there, and it was like it was interesting because he's so
Insane.
like he's just kind of like he's like your grandmother that you like walk around now at like 90 years old, where that she just waves to shit and is constantly confused by stuff. But sure enough, he was there singing, and
Mhm.
that was it. So, great segue from Brian Wilson into the two movies that we're going to cover today. Um, you know,
Yeah,
Pieces. I don't know. Yeah, I just figured anything's a great segue to these two. You could always
sure.
6 degree. I'm sure there is a 6 degrees of separation from Brian Wilson to Pieces and the Mutilator.
This
Um,
was a hell of a double feature. These
yeah,
ones work
right.
very well together. I mean, seriously.
I mean, unbelievable. So this is one of those episodes where, we'll throw on our Siskel and Ebert hat and we'll just sit, like in the King's Theater, up in the balcony and talk about these two things. They in the heyday, 82 for Pieces, which was, I mean, I guess you could say heyday of VHS, but I feel like 84 for the Mutilator was more of the heyday.
Mhm.
These are two movies that, you would never have known existed if it wasn't for VHS and that era of like, when you're a kid and, you see the cover art to the Mutilator or Pieces, it's pretty eye-catching regardless of how terrible these movies are. You see that,
Mhm.
like that VHS cover, and like, boy, I don't know what your relationship with these two movies were prior to this, like deep dive. But I had, so, man, it, before I get into it, how did you stumble on these two movies, like before the episode?
Well, I mean, yeah, the VHS big boxes are burnt into my memory. Pieces when I was a young lad, just getting into the slasher flicks or whatever. We saw this one pretty early on, me and my friends, and it was a moment, man.
Yeah,
It was as gory as a film as I had seen up to that point, and a lot of TNA,
mm,
and it was a teenage. It was perfection. We saw it several times, like
yeah.
a lot, and the other one, totally remember seeing the box and the tagline, whatever. It's got a funny tagline, Mutilator, something like by hook, by sword, bye
Yeah.
bye, or some shit,
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah.
I never rented it. I don't know. I don't know why. I never had it in VHS back in the day. So both these films, if anyone's interested, are both on Shudder with given the Joe Bob treatment. So
I think
forgive me too if I
yeah.
mention anything that he says or whatever. But just when he showed it, the Mutilator recently was the first time I had watched it ever. So,
Okay.
and I stopped
Yeah.
it like 10 minutes in, and I was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna wait, talk to you, and see if
Yeah.
you want to do a double feature, and then go back and take notes on this because I can already tell this is amazing.
Oh, yeah. It's yeah, okay. So Pieces, right? Pieces was something that I actually owned on VHS. I actually owned it on VHS. And certain movies were horrifying as a kid. Like, we all loved Halloween, we all loved Michael Myers, Friday the 13th, Freddy. These movies seem like The Godfather compared to like Pieces, especially even in like just what you could latch onto as a kid.
Mhm.
You watch Pieces, and the gore and the violence in it is almost like, it was almost like a little too much. Like, where we're like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, this is like super, it was like extra mean spirited. It didn't really feel like, I don't know, there was something a little extra about it. And I just remember Pieces was one of those movies. I remember too, I think it was like an X rating too, if I remember the
They got
VHS.
an NR or one of those. I think they did where they didn't give it an X, but they got it
Uh,
like a no rated or whatever. But yeah, it
yeah.
was. I mean, you got your feet wet with Friday the 13th and Halloween, and they were scary to you as a young kid or whatever. But then this was some like next level shit that made those. You still like those movies, but you're like, oh, this genre can get even like
Yeah.
more fucked up.
It's like when you listen to, like, Kill 'Em All, and you're like, this is cool, and then somebody gives you like a fucking like Napalm Death record, and you're
Yeah,
like, oh
exactly.
wow, this is like, and it served its purpose, like the brutality of it all. Like, whenever you would like, it's like, oh, you've never seen Pieces, and then you put it on, and as a kid, and you watch it.
Yeah.
Now, the Mutilator, shout out to every fucking Queens video store on the planet growing up. This movie we rented, me and my cousins rented all the time. It was like a go-to. I don't even like, I have no idea. Like I'm like a fucking child, like a fucking child. I remember my dad telling the video owner in Belrose, Queens. He's like, "Oh yeah, let him write whatever he wants," and I would just rent these movies, and they were like, "Yeah, whatever." His dad, like, all my dad needed to say was like, "Yeah, that's cool," and like back then, no
Yeah.
one cared. It's like, "Oh yeah,
Nah.
sure." It's
Your
like,
your dad could send you to the store for cigarettes. As
and
a child,
yeah,
like a 10-year-old, you could buy
yeah,
cigarettes for your parents.
yeah. Yeah, so one day, I'm gonna detour real quick. Speaking of that, in that same neighborhood, my dad must have been like hungover, drunk, whatever, and he told me to go get groceries, and I'll never forget. Like I went to this, so we lived off like a highway, and like it was like a pretty decent walk, and I get all this shit, and I remember I had two heavy bags to carry. Yo, I couldn't have been more than like seven. I'm
Mhm.
talking about like I and then the bags broke and they were so heavy and I just left it there. And when I just came back, I'm like, I couldn't bring it. Probably like one of the first times I ever disappointed him, He picked me up and he smacked me in the face,
Oh
smacked
man.
me, shook me, and he's like, "You could act like a man." Uh, and that's it. And that's how I learned that you basically always come back with groceries. But the mutilator,
Yeah.
um, maybe in comparison just seems sillier enough, and once we get into it, like we'll do that second just because I feel like there's so much more to talk about with the mutilator because it's just everything ridiculous about it. So I think like maybe the characters being more in tune with what we're used to seeing in slasher movies, and like
Yeah.
the killer being like pretty visible. I think we just embraced that a little bit more. Pieces was like, the shit that
Sure. And it's also an American made feature versus
yeah,
Pieces had shot in Spain, but it's supposed to be Boston, shot by a director who'd never been to America at that point.
never been to
And
America,
like,
and written by like an Italian guy, which makes sense. Like when it seems
yeah,
like it's pretty giallo-ish, when you watch Pieces. I feel like, like
yeah.
with the identity hidden and all that other shit.
Oh, it's a who done it
Yeah,
slasher thing with the
it,
most
it is.
obvious. The red herrings are like beating you over the head, like
Yeah,
with how obvious they make certain, like
yeah.
the dude who was Bluto and Popeye. I can't remember his name.
I'm gonna
Always like,
I'm gonna get into
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So
yeah. Let's,
yeah, so like that's what it was. It was just easier to embrace. But
yeah,
pieces is the one that you pull out. It's almost like what a Serbian film is, where you're like,
yeah,
oh, you like this? Check this out.
yeah.
Pieces was that in 1982, and it was so these two movies. I tried to explain it to my girlfriend why I was watching them again, and I said they're really terrible movies. They're terrible. They're unbelievably bad movies, but in the grand scheme of like horror and what you want in an 80s slasher movies, they're classics. They're
Yeah.
unbelievably classic horror movies, but they're just not really good movies.
Pieces is one of my favorite horror movies of all time, hands down,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
for life.
yeah. It's so very good stuff. You like you mentioned, like Joe Bob has both of them, and I feel like they're both up on Tubi for all you cheapskates that don't want to drop
They're
that
probably
five
on
bucks.
every free, I think.
Yeah,
Freebie, Tubi. Like,
yeah.
I don't think these are like high licensing uh
No.
items, but
Yeah. So pieces in the very beginning. Like how do we describe this movie? Just like a young
well, I tell you,
kid.
both films, a mother killed a mother with
Yeah, yeah.
before the credits even roll.
Yeah, yeah. I totally forgot about like that connection, but
Yeah,
yeah, very much so. The first one, so pieces like I guess it's just like even like the cinematography of it all. I'm like I feel like I'm watching like somebody's home video of like
yeah,
just pure nonsense. And Mom's is not. very happy with this like, puzzle that this kid is making. And that's where it kind of kicks off, like he I guess his mom kind of makes him feel like a perv, and then he like, hits her with the axe and all that other stuff, hides in the closet, and then from there, so like I mean, like, what do you want to say? Like, I guess like the killer is like hidden, right? It's like you said, it's like a who done it, and
Yeah, they're
these
gonna throw out these cat and spoil alert if nobody's seen these movies in the past, 40
41
years.
years.
But yeah, is it the principal guy? Is it this teacher who's wearing a jacket that looks like a one like my grandmother's upholstered couch,
Yes.
and all these teenage girls are sweating this guy,
Yeah.
like this professor guy. You got Bluto from that's what I'm gonna call him. He's a character actor that's you've seen in a
Paul
million things.
Paul L. Smith.
Yes, who I got the the Blu-ray DVD from the library of pieces, and they have interviews with him and all. It seems like a really nice guy or whatever, but outstanding. I don't know who put it out, if it's Vinegar Syndrome or Shout Factory, but anyway, nice DVD. But and he's out there side eyeing like every shot of that guy. He looks like angry as fuck. Like he couldn't be more of an obvious like could this be the killer kind of thing.
Well,
You know.
so like I know I gave us like seven questions to answer about this stuff, so we could go through the plot of the movie that way. So, favorite character for me, I'll just mention that's the first question. Paul L. Smith. He plays Willard because, like you mentioned, like this movie is trying to convince you everyone's the killer, but he's really
He's selling it hard.
he's selling. If you watch the movie close enough, I feel like he's just like, yo, what the fuck am I doing here? Because he seems like he's laughing through
Yeah.
everything. Because I heard it was like a favor, right? Joe Bob said it was like a favor to like the director or someone like that, like where he was just like, hey, can you be in this movie?
Something like that. Yeah.
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 So
Threw him a
to,
bone.
to me, my favorite character through the whole movie, maybe the attachment that I have to Popeye. He's just
Sure.
that's what he is to me, Bluto. Um, but he's just every scene he's in, he steals it because he's so ridiculous in it. He
The
walks
girl
in
laying
with
out sunbathing, and he's got like what the
a
chainsaw,
chainsaw. Yeah,
just like staring at her,
yeah,
like
yeah.
ice grilling her.
And then like some girl like gets killed at the pool and shit, and he walks in with like fucking garden shears,
I
like
love that.
walk like he's literally just walking in with garden shears, like walking around and stuff like that. So to
The thing,
me,
and we jump around, but you mentioned that pool scene. I love that pool scene so much because the chainsaw is laying there, and somehow the cops bring in the professor to get his
yes.
input on here. And he says even a layman could see this was done with a chain. The chainsaw, the bloody chainsaw's left right by the corpse. They're like, could you tell us
and
what
and
did this?
and then they try to fucking red herring it again with him because he was just like, hey, don't touch that, you just destroyed evidence, and he's like, oh, okay. Like just like dumb shit like that, but it's fucking so great. So yeah, Paul L. Smith is my favorite character of this movie. I don't know if you have one
Totally agreed. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
on that one.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
So then we have least favorite character. I'll tell you who my least favorite character is. The guy that's getting laid all the time. His name in the movie is Kendall. uh Man, I mean, I guess you're supposed to hate him, but he's just such a fucking dork. And it's almost like you're begging for him to get killed through the whole fucking movie. So that
Well,
would be
they
my
deputized that kid too. They're
yeah.
like
He
the
wanted
cops
to
there.
he want to
Just
be
anybody who anybody want to like get in on this? Like the teacher over here.
well, because
Come
they
on
were
in.
yeah, he was like, I shouldn't be counting on you, but I'm counting on you. Like the fucking like head detective. It's just like really, it's like you have this fucking guy bumbling around and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I
he's
hated I hated his friend, that nerd, the nerd who like after he strikes out with Linda Day George, and the kid comes out of nowhere with the mask and says Casanova and blows that raspberry at him.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck was this?
There's a lot of like there's a lot of that with these movies. You know what it is? Maybe like editing. You know, when you watch these two movies in particular, you do realize the importance of like a good editor or like things that
Sure.
just don't make sense because like characters just pop up out of nowhere, say something, and then they disappear, and you're just like, what is going on right now? So yeah,
I felt like a lot of Italian film. I'm not a Giallo fan at all. Like, I
I'm
think it's
not.
the silliest shit. I don't even understand how people give it such high praise because it's always laughable, always. And the
Yeah,
dub, they're always dubbed. Dubs are always funny. They never make sense. It makes everything, the acting all shitty. And I think a lot of the Italian films, and Fulci's my dude. I like Fulci films the best, but even they seem to have a bit of like, as far as editing go, like, just leave that in. just just fuck it. It's already done. Moving
yeah.
on, you know?
It's a perfect. It's a perfect. So one of the questions I asked too also was who gave it their all? You know, these two movies are arguably, you know, pretty funny or terrible in their own way, but like who's the one person in here that was just giving it their all? And for me it's uh fucking Christopher George. Love
Yeah,
that guy. That guy was in The Exterminator. That guy was
sure.
in God, I forgot what else he was in. I'm gonna look it up because he's been
Yeah,
in
he
some
worked.
shit.
He worked a lot.
So I'm gonna look it up right now. Uh,
And all B shit, pretty much, right? He never had a. Did he have a moment
a moment.
ever? Him
N-
and Linda Day George, that was his wife, right?
yeah.
The tennis pro that happens to work at the police station.
City of the Living Dead. That's the other one I was thinking of.
Like, why did they
Graduation
make
Day.
her a tennis pro?
Oh, you know who? What else he was in that I loved him in? Enter the
What's that?
Ninja. Enter the
Oh
Ninja.
shit.
Yeah, he was like the main bad guy. Yeah, man, he's been in. Yo, honestly, this guy's been in some shit like Mortuary. Yeah, so you know, I could understand why he gave it his all. And
Mhm.
you know, it's kind of like what Nicolas Cage did for like the last, you know, like 20 years. Like you see him pop up in a movie and you're just like, this movie's kind of terrible, but it has Nicolas Cage. So I'm sure
Shit.
people back
He's
in the
almost
day,
starting to like go the other way though. Like I like the film last year, The Unbearable, weight of
oh,
massive talent,
yeah.
that. And I watched Renfield last night. Great time. I had a great
Oh
time watching
yeah.
that shit. Yeah,
I
fun.
did I didn't notice that it hit Peacock.
It's
So
on
I
Peacock. It's on DVD. But yeah, good time. But anyway, I digress.
but
To jump on my actor that was giving it all, I'm going to go to his wife, Linda Day George, selling that. I mean, one of the greatest lines I've ever heard, her yelling bastards. I mean, is there anything better than her
no.
yelling bastards at the top of her lungs? She's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's so bad, but it's so great.
But that is like the you know, when you watch a movie like this, I don't know what you think of two things. And I'm gonna mention that here because I'm gonna say best bit of direction, which is the fourth. It's the fourth question, and I'm just picturing that director out of his fucking mind, and she's yelling bastard, and he's like again, again, and she keeps it's so perfect because it's one of those things that when you watch movies like this, like you really embrace like the stupidity of it. And also for me, for that question, Bruce Lee. So
Well,
there's
yeah,
this.
I'm going to definitely touch on that one
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
he's like, you know, like just pops up out of nowhere, like kung fu fights someone, and then says
Well,
something about eating bad chop suey, which is just like so over. Like I can't even comprehend what it is, but it's moments like this in these movies that just give you like something extra, that something so memorable. Like when you watch this with a crowd or a
Yeah,
midnight screening, these are the things that people
perfect.
wait for. Where
This is perfect for that shit. But when you had said you were going to ask the most what the fuck moment,
yeah,
that Bruce Lee scene is for me because it's just like out of nowhere we're gonna have like a kung fu scene.
yeah,
He's gonna get like throwing all his moves out. This other kid, oh, that's just so and so, my kung fu teacher, and
yeah,
then like walks off like so unnecessary, so for. And then that's a whole story Joe Bob could give you if you watch the thing. I think somebody because all the all the Bruce Lee imitators that were around Bruce Lee and Bruce Lee and whatever, and for some reason I think the producer wanted to get him in a film or one of those kind of things. That's why it's only like what is it? If that if it's like a 45 second or a minute, it's you know, but that's insane. Yeah, and the
but
chop suey line, that's just
that's the yeah,
ridiculous.
it was the beauty of making a movie and somebody being like, hey, can my friend be in it? And it's like, okay, sure, he could be, you know what I mean? Like like if I was around back then and I, he'd be like, sure, can you play guitar? I'm like, I can. And then I'll just
They
sit there.
wrote it in like that morning, like, all right,
Yeah.
he's gonna try to kick this girl, this guy's gonna come out, then they're
Yeah.
gonna friendly like say goodbye.
So what
What was
about
your what the fuck moment?
my what the
Yeah,
fuck
that was
moment?
mine.
So
Yeah.
my what the fuck moment for me is the so it's like the sequence, right? It's a sequence of like trying to remember like the killer is like chasing this girl through the school, and then he gets her, maybe it's in the shower, right? And then but the whole thing is like this buildup of like this music that sounds like
Yeah.
it sounds like the music
We're
from
we're,
like,
we're touching on all like because this is going to be my favorite kill actually too. So yeah,
okay.
she's playing Linda Day George in tennis.
Yes,
Who's a tennis?
yeah.
She's a tennis pro. Works at the police station. She didn't need
Yeah.
to be a tennis pro. Well, I don't know. And then she's undercover at the school. They're done with the match. The girl goes to take a shower, and this is
Yes.
I remember this scene as a young man, and and then yes, they're playing a marching band
But
like John Philip Sousa
it's
marching band at
I
top
was
volume.
I described it as like the wedding scene in The Godfather because that's what it sounded like. It just sounded like that. It just sounded like that type of music. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's so almost like I want to say distracting through what's
yeah,
going on because it just doesn't even fit whatsoever. And then that music lingers on for like the next scene. It just doesn't go. It's almost like they
no,
they broke the knob off. But just that sequence in particular was so great because they were trying to like create something, maybe like some sort of like, you know, uh just like the scene, and he probably, if we asked the director, I would guarantee you he'd probably say this is his favorite scene. So
yeah.
but yeah, but
Well, everything
also that
beautiful that
kill.
we're just talking about it. Yeah, because it's my favorite kill, and I'll bounce back on that because well, Bluto makes an appearance because they're going to
Yeah.
shut the music off, and then Linda Day George is so mad that they missed the kill because of the music, and that's when she gives the bastards line. I mean, this is the perfect sea of the
Yeah.
shitstorm, and
Yeah.
talk about giving it all. The girl pissed her pants when when they come and hit with the chainsaw, and supposedly they got too close with the chainsaw, and she really pissed her pants. Why the camera was already at the ready in her crotch to give that up close to her pissing her pants, you got to wonder. Or maybe they always had a crotch cam on set with the other cam. Who knows? But yeah, it crashes through the stall door and cuts her torso. It just leaves her sitting there. And yeah, I always remember it. That was a particularly gory kill.
Yeah, because it's you don't see stuff like that, and I mean the effects look great. You watch it and you're just like, whoa, like
Yeah, sure.
I don't know what that looks like genuinely, but you convinced me that it's kind of weird. But it's funny. You take a sequence like this, and then you take like a Tarantino or a Scorsese, like the end of like Scorsese films, like where there's that music and
Sure.
like Layla's playing and everything's happening. And then you watch something like this, which is on the complete opposite spectrum of like, you know, I just absolutely terrible. Every
Well,
part of it,
while
but
we're
very
mentioning
memorable.
that song and how terrible it was, like I gotta say though, the main theme to this film by it's listed by Cam as far as the soundtrack goes, which is seen as a group of guys, and Fabio Frizzi's in it, who I think was in Goblin. I don't know, I don't remember, but it's got that one thing the Italians did right though, great scores in their horror films and giallos, and I love the theme. They overuse it, the theme to in pieces, but I love the music and the main theme.
Um, so you gave your best kill. So we're gonna wrap this movie up because my best kill is actually the ending. As a kid,
Mm,
there's certain things that stayed with you, and I one of the things that stayed with me about this movie was the very ending. So really, the killer is trying to piece together, like he had the jigsaw, because I think
mhm.
originally the script was called Jigsaw. So he was taking bits and pieces of women and sewing them together. So like when that yeah, the dialogue when that guy like mistakenly puts his hand on the fucking like wall thing or whatever, maybe it was like some sort of like office
It's a
thing.
bookcase that
Oh
the
yeah,
secret
maybe it was
door,
like a
like some
bookcase.
Scooby Doo shit. Yeah,
And then you see this actual like sewn together woman. Whoa,
yeah.
that was a lot. I mean, she was smiling through the whole scene, which definitely alleviated some of the pressure. But and then like
She had
so
that off-colored dead
yeah,
person skin. They did pretty nicely.
they
Yeah,
did very nicely. But like my favorite kill was just when they get to Kendall. This sewn together person comes to life and slashes his dick and then
yeah.
squeezes his nuts and wow,
And
that's a
how
lot. That's a lot. As like who knows how old I was.
it becomes a supernatural film in the last like
Yeah.
couple of seconds. Because how would that
Damn it.
happen? But I love it because everybody like after what Carrie came out in '78, so many people wanted that Carrie ending, and they gave you two. They gave you the bookshelf when the corpse falls out when you thought everything was cool. And then you just when you think it's cool, they give you another Carrie ending when she rips his balls off.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what I like, so everyone did the one up, like when you watch these movies as a kid, you're like, oh, this isn't it's not over. It's not over yet.
No.
They're gonna come back, and
Yeah.
they always did. They always gave you that comeback. So that's cool.
And I
Um,
read just a little, you never know how accurate everything is, but according to IMDb, a budget of 300,000 for this film, which could be possible. And it
yeah,
lists a worldwide gross, I guess, up to this point of 2 million, over $2 million. So if that is accurate, what a success.
listen, it's a fun thing to watch with a crowd, especially
Big
people
time.
that have never seen it. It's got enough what the fuck comedy to it.
Hmm.
Um and the violence. Like once everyone's laughing at certain parts of the dialogue and how silly it is, when the
Hmm.
violence comes, the violence is pretty hard. It's a pretty hard fucking turn where it's enough to keep you're like, whoa, holy shit.
Yeah, this would
Um
be a home run to screen. The two of these together screened in an audience full of people who haven't seen it or have seen it would
yeah.
probably say the bastards line along with the screen on some Rocky Horror shit. I mean, this would be a good time, these
Yeah,
two
we
together.
we, we got to make that happen. So, the last thing, should it be remade or not?
Well, I mean, I say why not at this point, because it's not like some people that are so against remakes. It's like, and I used to have my moment or so, but it's not like they come to your house and destroy your original copy and you never could see it again. Like if you don't like it, you don't like it. Now, if you did do it, you can't purposely go for camp. Camp is a perfect accident that happens for that kind of humor where they think they're doing something good. So the angle you'd almost have to take is like try to make it maybe like legit scary or serious or something, maybe to go that way with it. Um,
Camp
what do
is
you think?
accidental. Camp is
Yeah,
accidental, like you said, and when people try to do like a Sharknado or stuff like that, where it's so purposeful, it falls flat every single time because it's
yeah.
like, nah, it
Then
just
it's
doesn't.
just bad.
Then it's just bad.
Like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's just plain bad. This is
like
bad, but great.
Yeah,
Like
like
you're just bad.
the director in 82 or 81, probably when he made it, was probably thinking he was making the greatest thing ever, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
So for me, I say yes, but I think the remake has already been made. The movie May. Have you ever watched May?
Oh yeah. Yeah. All right.
I
Sure.
I feel like
With Angela
May,
Bettis.
yeah, May took this approach, and I feel like they really went deep with the concept of why she wanted to do that, piece together these things. She had such a self-esteem issue with her like lazy eye and all this other stuff, trying to make like connections with people. And when you think of the ending, it's kind of similar, and I think May
That's a
is
good point.
like when I finally saw May, I was like, yo, this is like pieces, like, because of what she's doing and how it ended and all this other stuff. But May is just unbelievable. A movie that I ignored for a long time. And when I finally watched it, I was like, holy shit, this is
Yeah, I
good.
haven't seen that in a long time. But I tell
Yeah.
you what, too, and it might work perfectly in this day and age. Redo pieces, make it serious, and have the girl be putting together a guy corpse puzzle, whatever.
Yeah.
She can
Yeah.
cut his Johnson off, whatever, attach that, and at the end he rips her badge off or something. Like
Yeah.
you might have to lay that one off, but you could totally flip it that way or something.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, so Pieces, completely recommended if you've never seen it. So
Yeah,
wow.
thumbs up.
Let's talk about The Mutilator. Wow. I mean, you want to talk about a movie that just starts off like, it's funny because you watch it and you're like, oh wow, this movie's gonna be serious and crazy.
Mhm.
You know, lady, like, she was like baking a cake. I guess it was somebody's birthday, and the kids,
Fathers, yeah.
the father, okay, and then the
Mhm.
kids, her son's playing with a gun in like the next room,
He's
accidentally
he's
shoots.
cleaning the rifles for him for his birthday. Yep.
Oh, okay, all
Yeah.
right. So accidentally shoots his mom, which I mean can happen. Like, you're like, holy shit, like this is crazy. Accidentally shoots his mom. Dad comes home, and he starts, uh, being very upset and crying, and
The
that's
father and the son, their grieving process was very interesting. The
yeah,
son wasn't, nobody was really crying. Everyone didn't look either, and the father's initial reaction was just like, I'm gonna fuck this kid up. Instead of
yeah.
like,
You know
yeah.
what? Like, I don't know, man. I mean, maybe they still had that sexual chemistry at that point. And it's just like, who am I fucking now? Fuck this
And
kid.
drags the mother into the room, give her a drink, pours
So
some whiskey down her throat.
listen, right? So you're sitting there and you're watching this kind of like traumatizing scene where you're like,
Yeah.
wow. And then it just like tonally shifts to like kids hanging out, like these like college kids hanging out at a bar. It's like, oh, like what are we gonna do? This was before smartphones and the internet, so I guess everyone was bored. They had no idea what
Yeah.
to do. They're
During
like,
fall
oh,
break, which I don't
yeah.
even think exists, to be honest with you.
They just made that up. They're like, spring break. Nah, I can't. It's fall. All right,
Yeah.
fall break. All right, yeah, let's
Oh
do
yeah.
it. Right. So they're like just hanging out, and it's like obviously the son who's grown up now. And when it goes to like the opening credit scene, which lasts about what, 5 minutes, I think. Like it's just
Oh, it's yeah,
it's this
100%.
ongoing thing. Like the tonal change because of the theme song is like something I can't even wrap my head around that tonal change.
That theme song is amazing. And what I love about it too, the fall break song, because they were originally going to call the film Fall Break, that didn't test as well. I didn't think that was a good idea, so they went with the Mutilate or whatever. But I love that they left the same title card. It still says Fall Break
Yeah,
on the screen, even though it's
yeah.
officially become the Mutilator.
Doesn't
Um,
matter. Doesn't matter.
yeah, and that song is amazing, and that's funny, because this movie too, you're in for something when you look at all at the IMDb page and all the actors, their photo. is like a scene from the movie, The Mutilator. Like,
or
okay,
or
nobody
or
did
not or
shit
nothing.
or nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this guy that did the song Fall Break, I guess he must be um, with like Abel Ferrara. Excuse my phone ringing. Because, Jesus,
My phone's
because he
been
did
ringing.
music for Miss 45, King of New
Oh,
York,
I didn't
a
know
whole
that.
bunch of Abel Ferrara films. So there must be Driller Killer he did music for. I'm sure they're not at all as catchy as Fall Break, but he was the only one I saw that seemed to. So he must have some Abel Ferrara connection. But
Yeah, no one else did anything. Like maybe like the lead
no,
character, Mark Mittler, did some movies. Now the killer, his name's Jack Catham. He was
mm,
credited in the Whoopi Goldberg Frank Langella movie, Eddie, but I don't know.
shit.
He must have been like an extra. He must have just been
Yeah,
sitting because
guy in crowd number two.
I went through all 178 characters. I was obsessed. I was like, I got to see him credited as something, and he wasn't. So I just thought it was funny. So,
Uh,
but so anyway, listen. The point of this is like he gets a call from his dad, and he like has to go like turn off the
Close the condo down for
heater.
the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's where it starts, and there's really no mystery to anything. They don't try to hide the killer's identity like at all. Like there is just like, okay, well,
yeah.
your dad's a killer, and then that's
They
that.
show the dad many times. You already know. And then the great, maybe one of the greatest things I've ever seen in a movie. When we first get to the house and the kids pick up the picture of that guy laying there with the corpse that his dad ran him over with a boat or whatever.
Yeah.
He has a picture of the corpse hanging on the wall, and nobody follows up with another question. Like, why does your dad have this fucking picture hanging on the wall? Like, oh, all right, he just put it down. You know what I mean? Like,
he
what the fuck?
yeah, I guess like that's his hunting house, and like I guess like maybe his dad waited till he graduated college or something to basically start doing this
Yeah.
stuff. Uh and then from there, so what I remember about the Mutilator for me personally was just the brutality. The effects
Hmm.
were killer. As a kid, I didn't really pay attention much to like it was almost like watching Final Destination, where you watch these movies just because you know they're gonna get killed in a cool way. And that's what the movie was to me. It was just like, okay, like this is kind of like a slasher movie. Um, he was like the killer was like interesting enough looking, like he just he looked like a mobster in another movie. You know what I mean? Like he just
He
had that
did. He did. Had some
yeah,
cool weapons too. That battle axe he's walking around with and shit.
which is very bizarre. I couldn't really figure out like where that came into play, like why they picked that, but the
Yeah.
battle axe thing was like really, really fucking funny for sure. Like it wasn't like it was like a like Conan fucking axe or something. Like it was just like so ridiculous. And then so that's really it. Like that's kind of like the whole movie is just them going to this house, and then he kind of kills them. And I love in the like the first couple of kills is he's like swimming in a pool with the two first people to go,
Yeah,
and
that blonde dude and that girl playing some stupid Marco Polo game, basically.
somehow
Popping up down.
somehow all three of them are in a pool, and like
And he sneaks into the water somehow. They're under the water so long and waiting there to drown this girl.
yeah, well, and like he like when he gets out of the pool, I guess like he walks out of the pool with this girl, and he's got like shorts on. You see his legs. I'm thinking like, okay, like that's interesting, right? So she's gone, and one of the when it comes to like favorite character, for me, nothing beats Big Ed, who's the killer, because he's
Oh
ridiculous.
yeah,
He's
agreed.
absolutely he's the best part of the movie because everyone else is pretty forgettable.
Those kids are
And
so annoying. Yeah,
yeah,
he's the only choice.
right. another funny scene too was like I guess like the one kid was like like I felt like he was like the comedian in the movie, and
The
he's like
redhead.
yeah, he's like talking to like the black dude who's selling them alcohol, and he's like telling him like 10%, like just like, oh, this is discrimination, and like just like the dialogue is so absolutely absurd leading up into this, right? So you I felt like it's pretty slow leading up to like these kills, but he is the best character, the killer. He kind of reminded me of like the killer in Slumber Party Massacre. They kind of had that like that same look,
Okay. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
um so we both have him, right?
100%. Yep.
And then my least favorite is the guy that we were mentioning, which is
Me
like
too, man.
really with the
Yeah.
blonde, the blonde dude. Like, I don't know what it is about like horror movies back then, but like these guys always talk to each other. I
Yeah.
guess that's what it is. Like they just like it's like, oh my God, like, oh, okay, like what's going all right, I see you. I mean, I don't see you. It's like you're a fucking grown ass man. No one talks like that.
And that dude, when he gets it, he gets that chainsaw to the belly, and he takes like 8 years to hit the ground. He's got like slow death.
Yo, the editing on that. First of all, the kills, my favorite kill is everything. Every
Yeah.
kill in this is great. Every kill is fucking great. That one's funny because of the editing, right? So
Yeah.
you have the killer who's just like, I guess it's just like spraying him with like some sort of blood as
Sure.
as he's holding this saw, and the
Yeah.
other guy is just like going, oh, and he's like shaking his head, and like the two things being edited together are so fucking funny. But then you actually watch the carnage, and you're like, oh, this is
Yeah.
good. Like it looked
Sure.
like a lump of just like you. I'm like, oh, I get why you're the mutilator, and he's like collects the bodies, right? He puts like his trophies on there. But like so like the special effects guy is a guy named Mark Shostrom, who you probably don't know the name, but if you saw his face, you would know who he was. Uh do you know what he's done?
Nah.
All right, so I'm gonna tell you right now. And also like the guy that Buddy Cooper used to Buddy Cooper's the director. So the guy that Buddy Cooper used to
Buddy Cooper actually played in the picture of that guy that the father ran over with the boat.
yeah.
Kept the picture of it. That was Buddy Cooper.
Well, he's got to throw himself in like that, like Stephen King.
Yeah. Sure.
But the guy that he co-wrote it with went on to work on like fucking The Abyss, which is
Oh
like,
wow.
can you imagine
That,
that?
that's legit.
So this dude, Mark Shostrom, worked on the Beastmaster, Videodrome, Nightmare on Elm Street, 1 and
Okay.
2, From Beyond, Evil Dead 2, fucking Prince of Darkness, Phantasm 2. I mean, Dick Tracy.
Yeah, listen, if you can make this shit happen on something with no budget, you're gonna, you know what I mean? Like people could take notice. Like, look what he did with this. Imagine if we gave him a couple of dollars.
Well, I mean that guy's resume, like, he has 100 more. He's alive. I feel like definitely should reach out to him. So when I saw what he looked like, he was actually on the documentary Direct to Video.
Oh, okay, I seen that.
So like the Direct to
Yeah,
Video 90s guy.
right.
But anyway, so the guy who did his best job here as far as acting, I went with Mark Mittler, who's the son, Little Ed. I feel like he out of everyone in the movie, he probably tried the hardest.
We're in locksteps here so far, man.
Yeah.
Telling you. Yeah.
I
Yep.
mean, I think it's pretty cut and dry when you really think about
It's
it.
got, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, he's
Uh
the only one with any semblance of trying.
so uh best
Now,
bit of
was
direction.
that chainsaw with the blondie there? That was your favorite kill, or it wasn't your favorite
No, everything. So my favorite kill, to be honest with you, I picked every single one of them.
kill? Okay,
Because they were
because I
just,
went with the. Go ahead.
yeah, I just picked all of them. So I mean, um yeah, just every kill in here was worth mentioning. Even the cop, the random cop.
Oh
Like
yeah.
he got the shit like fucking put through his fucking cheek.
Oh yeah. There's some good shit, some beheadings in there.
Are you gonna mention the harpoon
I have
or
to go with, I mean,
the
that
hook?
was the hook. Let me tell you, as someone who hadn't seen this film until recently, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's like, that's some legendary shit right there. That is like, I've never seen that before or since. You know what I
So
mean? Like
that
that.
that's up there
If
with like the
people don't know what we're
Terrifier.
talking about, they introduce this hook earlier on, and it's for if you're fishing, fish comes up. It's a huge meat hook looking thing to hook the fish and grab it. So he has the girl laid down on the table. He inserts this hook very roughly into her holiest of holy spots, out the into the stomach. And that shit is as savage as anything I've ever seen in my life. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That was something else.
It when you mention kills, that's up there. When you think of like Terrifier, the Saw in Half, like
Mm-hmm.
watching that hook
Yeah.
is like, like just picture watching that as a kid. I watched that and I'm like, wow, this is fucking crazy. But I
That
think
might be in my top 10 that I've ever seen. I got to
so,
say.
and I think that's what it is. So it's funny, you watched it as an adult. I watched it as a kid,
Yeah.
so as an adult, these are the things that make up for this movie that is just absolutely lacking. There's nothing. There's just kid accidentally kills mom, then goes to this house and his
Yeah.
dad kills all his friends, right?
Right.
The direction, all of this stuff is just what I picked for at least what I saw like was the most memorable was maybe the ending, like the end sequence, like where the dad's on top of the car and then like, she backs up. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that whole ending scene is pretty fucking cool. Like
Yeah.
that,
Oh,
like
yeah. Yeah.
I feel like the last 10 minutes of it, what I do love about like certain things, where you're like, why would you do this? So the dad, first of all, no car started in the 80s for some reason. As soon
Oh,
as you
my
got in
God.
the car, you're like
That
99% chance.
sequence of her trying to start the car was driving me like
Yeah.
insane. The crying, and he's
Yeah.
just yelling at her, "Start the car!"
Yeah.
Like, and she's trying and she's
You
crying, and it's like,
flooded
"Holy
the
shit!"
engine. Right? So I mean, I feel like they could have ran out and gotten way further on foot,
Yes. Yeah.
right? So the dad's on top of the car. He rips through like the convertible, and
Mm,
he fucking has this, that axe. He could kill two of them right there, but
yeah.
instead he takes his axe with his right hand and he moves it out of the way so he could stick his hand in and start
Yeah.
choking the kid instead. Um, and then when she backed out and like she fucking like crushed him against like the killer against like the brick wall. I love like the paramedic that just comes out of nowhere. Or maybe it was a cop. Was it a cop?
It was a cop, I believe. Yeah.
The guy was like, "Hey, can you back up?" Just like, where the fuck have you like where'd you come from? Like she just did this and like that happened and his like whole fucking like guts fucking like fall out.
Yeah.
And but true to like you never know when someone's dead. The guy the cop gets close to the body and he has one last whack before he
Of
fucking dies.
course.
How
Of
great was
course.
that? He fucking like chops his fucking leg off and yo, it was just great kills mixed in with like something that was, like had the plot of like a Schwarzenegger movie in 85.
Yeah. The my I have two. The best as far as direction and worst. The quick thing, there was one shot of them going down the beach, going, there was a shot through a window. This is going to sound like ridiculous, like I watched it like an art film, with these curtains blowing and they were walking down the stairs. It was a perfectly symmetrical, beautiful shot that you could see in like a legit. And I remember thinking, like, wow, that's a fucking great shot. That's perfectly executed. Like, in this sea of shit, you know what I mean? And then the worst thing about the direction, man, this movie was dark. It was dark as shit, man. Like
Yeah.
you couldn't see a lot of stuff going on. Like they did not have money for lighting, you
Which
know.
is so funny because Buddy Cooper apparently he was like a successful lawyer
Mm.
who liked movies, and I think his dad owned or a drive-in or something, and that's why he
Mm.
made this movie. He just wanted to make a horror movie, in South Carolina or North Carolina, I don't remember.
South Carolina, I believe. No, I think it was North. I think it was North. And you know what I love about his production company? You know what the name of it is? OK Productions. Like, okay, it's not that great. This isn't going to be that great. It's going
I
to be
didn't
okay.
know that. Yeah.
It's not going to be that good.
All right. So he has credits to his name. He has this one, he has the sequel, which we'll talk about now. And
Mhm.
then also the making of Fall Break, which God, I don't know if it ever got
Oh,
finished.
before we jump in that though, one more director decision as a decision of the film too. The credits, the end credits.
Oh my
is
God.
like
You're
is like
right.
a sitcom from the 90s. Like they're
That
playing music and they got the blooper reel. And like, what the fuck?
yo,
That was an
I,
interesting
I
choice.
I forgot that was my what the fuck moment. Yeah, yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So my what the fuck moment was basically like, you want to talk about direction. So like at the very ending, they're in the hospital, right? And
Yeah.
the last two are staring out this window, and it has this like dramatic music, and like the sun comes
Mm.
out, and you're like, oh my God. All right. So like just that direction piece was funny enough for me. So that was my pick. But then after everything, it just turns into this like 19 like Hogan family like fucking
It's like
outro
Full House or something,
where
man.
you're like, yo, what the fuck? Like it's a blooper reel with the kid getting choked out. Like,
The only thing I was missing was like the Benny Hill music and like slide whistles
yeah.
maybe in there here and there. Mm.
Well, there
Like,
was that one scene. All right, so you remember another thing we'll bring up, like when the redhead kid was gonna bang that girl, but he wanted to like lock up. And she was like, "Hey, I forgot what she tells him, but like, maybe it was like a condom or something. I don't remember."
that she tells him like she's gonna show him her tits
Yeah,
if he
like,
goes in. Yeah.
maybe she said it
and
was
he
like
and they
cold or
have
something.
fast forward like
Yeah. Well, because
runs out
you're
of the
talking
room.
about it's Benny Hill. Like it was like a
Yeah,
complete Benny Hill moment in the middle of this movie. Like I
yeah.
can't even imagine what that like. They're sitting there in post production, being like, "Oh, you know, what would be really cool, right? If you just like fast forwarded to like
Yeah, and it always and that constant 80s theme of like any guy, like if a girl said they were gonna like do anything sexual or hits were seen, like it was like their eyes are ooh, God, like
yeah,
that they walk in the walls and like fall out of windows and shit.
that's
Like nobody's ever seen like that was the whole 80s, man.
that's it. It's like, yeah, like everyone was a virgin to like 23 for some reason. And as soon as
Yeah.
like somebody's like, I'll show you my nipple, he was like, I'm out of here. Let's go. But yeah, if you're listening to this and you've never watched it and have no intentions on watching it, just watch the ending. Watch the ending
Yeah,
credits of just like
yeah.
it's one of the most ridiculous tone switches. Like it's unreal. It's
Fucking nuts.
it's almost like like Buddy was like this. I'm just doing this to amuse myself because like I would get that. Like he was like, fuck it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, production. So all right, so I remember me, our I guess buddy Damien, and
Mhm.
my other friend Paul Travers, that directed the movie Old 37. We talked about this movie, The Mutilator, and how ridiculous we thought it was, and how interesting it would be if somebody remade it. And it was like this pipe dream, but we're like, you know what? Like maybe we should get in touch with Buddy Cooper. Like, maybe he's not doing anything with it. And then it just kept snowballing and turning into this thing. And I think Paul reached out to him, and I think Buddy was like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to do anything with it." And a year later, they announced the sequel, and we were just like, "What?" We're like, I don't. Maybe he was thinking about doing it and didn't want to give it up. We have no idea, but it was just like the funniest thing, because we're thinking like, here's a movie that's, I mean, pretty fucking terrible, but maybe somebody could remake it and it'll be like, like updated for like today and stuff like that. But we both just had love for it because we felt like like what we're doing now. It's just like ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous movie that maybe could use a remake. When people remake shit, it's like, when you see Total Recall remade or other movies, you're like, well, those movies are perfect. Why would you remake any of these things? And someone
That's my
mentioned,
biggest argument with the whole remake culture. It's like they don't take a movie like Chud, like
yeah,
take
yeah,
that and redo it. That yeah, there's something there to work with. They didn't have any dough. They didn't have, something. It was under. You couldn't execute the vision. Now CGI, this and that. Let's take that script and let's really make it something like to take seriously or something like. Then take a film that's just that you can't build anything on. It
yeah.
exists perfectly as is. And I get updating things too because like kids, young other
I get it.
generations. You remember how your dad, like my dad, would put westerns on or some shit. I'm like, that's your shit. I
Yeah,
want my shit.
I don't. Yeah,
You know what I
I
mean?
can't. Yeah, I mean, yeah. That anytime I saw a western, I'm like, holy shit, it's
Yeah.
fucking brutal. But
Yeah.
so yeah, that story went on, and next thing you know, like they announced a sequel. Damien's in the movie, and I don't know about the release date, but yeah, I don't really know how you could have a sequel to this, to be honest with you. Maybe they sewed them back together. Uh I'm not exactly sure, like I don't
Yeah.
really know the premise.
Or well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you have the main character that he has a child, and then that child shoots his wife, and then and
You
it
know
goes
what?
on.
Yeah, it's like this thing. Absolutely. Yeah, he's like,
Mutilator, the next generation, or
when I was
something.
when I was younger, I shot your grandmother, and then the young kid
It's your
decides,
birthright. You you need to shoot my wife.
yeah. You know what? That'd be great if he decided to take that direction. So I guess we're just
Yeah, if
gonna
anybody's listening and wants to use that idea, just DM me, hit me up. We could talk. We
I
could
guess
talk.
we're I guess we're gonna
This
have to
this
wait and
serves
see.
as a legal recording of this that I came up with that concept.
We're gonna have to wait and see. But yeah, anyway, listen, these are two really ridiculous movies. If you've never seen them, I'm jealous because you get to experience them now. But even if it's been a long time since you've watched them, they're really good together. So I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe for the next horror hang, Rob Link, if you're listening,
that
don't
would
just
be wonderful. Oh God, if we could ever do a screening at a place again, like
yeah.
we've done in the past, that this would be a home run. Although, how many people actually even go? How many
Well,
people know these films?
I'll tell you this, like the screening sounds more doable than like going to like Rob Link's house and watching these two movies because they're not so much a mutilator, but like the gratuitous violence towards actual women in pieces definitely might get a little uncomfortable to watch while we're all hanging out eating pizza.
I don't know what
Uh
you're talking about.
yeah. maybe
But
that
listen, I
maybe
think
that
they're
seems
both like
dated.
that. Pieces overall is like a whole film of that, and then Mutilator, that one kill alone with the fish
Yeah.
hook is about as
Yeah.
fucked up as it gets.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, be a sausage party, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you this: the very last kill of pieces was, a couple of grapes getting squashed. So it's
It all
definitely
worked out in the
it
end.
all worked out. So cool. Hey, listen,
Yeah,
you've said it all.
we have. Yeah, go out and see these people. Tonight I'm watching I got a Blu-ray from the library of Blood Beat. You ever heard of
uh
that?
no.
It's in, I believe it's going to be in the vein of Rocktober Blood or something like that. It's a music group
Wow.
horror metal thing. I think I read about it in Mike McBeardo's book, The Heavy Metal Movies and stuff. I've been looking for a while, so I'll be enjoying that tonight. I'll let you know how it is.
All
Blood
right.
Beat. Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. I guess
Yeah, man.
rock and roll. I'm
All
gonna
right.
go do my thing.
Word.